Namaste. Good morning. So this is a share this morning that may primarily be accessible or may resonate more with those who have a meditation practice. But who knows? So recently, more and more, I'm finding that that people with whom I'm spending time with, especially if we're doing some work together in the self-realization of true nature, true being, that even if we're just out hiking, people are starting to say they're having experiences where they say, "That was weird." And I'll say, "What? What happened?" "Oh, we were hiking along, and for a moment, or for a few moments, or for a minute, I disappeared." It's like I wasn't thinking about self. There was no self here. There was no old sense of self. I disappeared. But what is weird is that I disappeared and yet I am still here. That's the beautiful experience of, oh my gosh, my story of self stopped for a bit, and yet I was still here. So what I want to point to this morning is the dynamic that happens in the disappearing of the story, and recognizing that there's a moment of freedom. But what happens is that the mind then says, wait, I still exist. This is interesting. What is that? And the mind then, the need for an identification, the habit of needing to objectify a self, to have an identified and interpreted self, is just a habit of mind. And when we become an essence of being, the mind goes, whoa, that's cool. What is that? And it tries to understand it in its old habit. That's just what the mind does. And as soon as it does, the whole thing collapses, because this essence, this true essential nature, is not an object. It's not anything that the mind actually can understand. Is beyond the limited mind's ability to understand self. So the practice is to break the habit of assessment, of interpretation, so that as in a meditative state, and then it happens just in the waking life as one practices more, but let's say in the meditative practice, as the awareness starts to let go of an interpretation self, an interpreted self, an identity, an image, a construct of self, as the mind starts to let go of that, it starts to find just a beingness, an isness. And we can watch in our meditations as the mind, as soon as that starts to happen, goes, ooh, what is that? What is that? What is that? What's happening? I'm discovering another me, another essence, and it wants to have an identified me, an objectified me, a character of me. And when we can watch that and notice it, and then put it down for a moment, put down the need to interpret, to assess, to know this new me, that is appearing, showing itself, which is pure awareness, pure loving awareness. As that begins to show itself and the mind wants to say, ooh, what is that? What's happening? To put that down and let it be. Let our beingness be without interpretation. For me, that was probably a couple of years of doing that within meditations. And to watch the mind say, there's no value to something I can objectify. And it takes a while to relax that habit. Faith, this is faith. And to have a faith that says, oh, there can be a beingness without it needing to be interpreted. Now recently, what's come into awareness is that there's a nothingness that is spoken about, to be in the nothingness. But then the question arises, well, how do I know nothingness? We are limited. We will always be limited. We have a limited consciousness. It's because we are a personification, a human consciousness knowing the one consciousness. But that separation, if you will, is, I'm getting esoteric here, but the one consciousness as it individuates, the consequence, the price it pays, is that it individuates into a consciousness that is naturally limited. So as we come into the oneness of self, there still needs to be an awareness of that, a knowing of that. That is somewhat of an interpretation, but the best we can do is to let it be almost like a fragrance of self, a knowing of self without interpretation. But there is something there, but to not identify it and just let it be is like letting it just be a fragrance of self. An expansive knowing of beingness that we can feel, we know it's there, but we don't interpret it, we just let it be. But it has a slight interpretation, and that can be just like a fragrance without interpretation. Let yourself have a being of self without interpreting the self. This is where it gets tricky, but this is what the practice leads to, is the ability just to be, just to be, just to be. So the invitation here is the practice is to practice various ways of breaking the mind's need to interpret everything so that it can, quote, know it, which is always going to be a limited experience. So look about the world around you, especially coming out of a meditation, and don't name anything. Don't interpret it. Don't assess it for value, for how beautiful it is or isn't to the construct of you. To not name a color, to not name an object. I'm looking out the window here and not name tree or bush or rock or sky or, oh, that's beautiful, or I like the way the light, just let it be without any assessment, any interpretation at all. Now, another one that's powerful, this one just came to me this morning because I put on some essential oils, and to allow to smell that, they were on my hands, and to smell that and not interpret it at all. Ooh, that's lavender. Ooh, I like that. Oh, that's nice. Oh, that makes me feel calm. Just to let it be. That's a powerful one. So assess, allow yourself to notice all within you and all around you without the need to interpret any of it. so that we may find the essential nature of our own beingness that is beyond all interpretation. To allow ourselves to disappear and not have to reappear in a new assessment, a new interpretation, a new, quote, understanding, but to allow ourselves to disappear so that we can truly appear limitless in pure beingness without naming what that is or interpreting what that is. And then imagine you can actually wander through life, you can move through life totally free of the construct of self, in your absolute beingness, free of the need to constantly be reinterpreting your self, a good self, a bad self, a worthy self, an unworthy self, a lovable self, a not lovable self. That's gone. You just are. Namaste. Such love. Blessings. Allow yourself to disappear and not have to reappear. Allow yourself to disappear and be with what is there when the story of you is not, without assessing the new sense of self that has arrived and reinterpreting that as just a new story, a new identification of being that will always be limited. This is the beauty. This is the opportunity, the letting go. Namaste. Namaste.
If you like this video and you'd like to see similar content, please subscribe to my channel. You can also click that like button down below, and that's going to make this video more available to more people. Also, visit me at my website, chessedwards.com. There's a link to that down below. There you are going to find valuable resources for living a conscious, peaceful, and powerful life. Also, there's going to be information there about how to work with me one-on-one and how to build your own 3-day custom private immersion retreat with me right here in Sedona. As well as information about upcoming group retreats, virtual retreats, and so much more. And I got a few free gifts for you. Thanks for watching.